Well, today is the 13th anniversary of 9/11. And I remember very well where I was when the attacks took place. I was asleep. Yes, folks, I literally slept through 9/11. Let me break it down for you. At the time, I was working a third shift job. I was working as a security guard for Spartan Security. My site was Allied Die Casting. I got home about 6:30. I had videotaped Raw the other night. the night before, WWE Raw. And I watched that, fast-forwarding through commercials and the boring parts. And around 8:30, I went to sleep. Now, as I'm watching this, I'm also looking online, checking my email, blah, 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 and downloading stuff on a dial-up connection. Remember what I just said, dial-up connection. Okay? Now, with a dial-up connection, your phone line is occupied. And I didn't have the option at that time to where a phone call would interrupt the download, because download speeds on a dial-up were really slow back then, and it was going to take close to 12 hours to download all what I wanted to download. And essentially what happened was that while I slept, my mom was at my sister's place. I believe my sister had already gone on leave for her pregnancy. She was pregnant with my niece at the time, who was born a month later. My aunt was in her bedroom watching this unfold, but for some reason never woke me up. I don't know why she didn't wake me up. Maybe she was just so mesmerized what was going on. So that was it. Basically, it was just me and my aunt at our old house, and my mom at my sister's place. And I woke up about 3 o'clock, and I had the TV on CNN for some reason. I had the TV off, I turned it on, and there was all of a sudden all hell breaking loose in New York. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, what's going on? Where's there smoke coming out of the buildings? And it didn't dawn on me as things are going on is that we're under attack. So I'm kind of like, okay. I'm sitting there for like 5-10 minutes. I sit down right where my desk is at. The download's finished. And I go to my email. Everything's fine until 8:45 when there's somebody posts on a Yahoo mail group at the time. Oh, so a plane's flown into the World Trade Center building. And it keeps going, they keep talking, it's a tragic accident and all that. There are a few people who say it may be a terrorist attack. And then 9:03, boom. Oh my God, a second plane's flown in. That's when it goes straight to hell. And we all know what happens next. Plane crashes in the Pentagon, one of the towers falls, and the next tower falls. The plane crash happens in Pennsylvania around that time, and within the matter of 2-3 hours, 2 of the largest buildings in the world are rubble. A plane has landed in the Pentagon, and a 4th plane was either headed for the White House or for the Capitol building. But the passengers decided they weren't having any of that. Now, I woke up at 3 o'clock, like I said, and all of a sudden, I'm looking through this stuff on my email. I'm watching TV, and I'm going, what the hell's going on? My aunt finally realizes I'm awake, comes in and talks about it, and I turn off, I stopped the dial. We had 2 phone lines at the time, mine and my mom's. My mom's apparently didn't ring at all because I didn't hear it. And mine was, shall we say, preoccupied. And looking back at it now, I've always had this feeling of sort of being on the outside looking in at this event. I didn't live it because I had to work that night. So I had to sleep and get up like I usually did and then go in to work. My day was basically I got up around 4 o'clock, did whatever I was doing. Then I went in about 10:30, at the 10:30. Got off at 6:30, although that night I went in a little bit early, got off a little bit early. And everything seemed fine when I came home. 16 hours later after I came home from the plant, I went back in. Now, the plant where I work security at is a very redneck place. Yeah, there were people who were pissed. They were mad as hell. And you already had people flying their flags on their cars already. People were in shock, in awe, but at that time it had turned to anger. Deep-seated anger. I'm talking about the kind of anger that, in all honesty, I was kind of worried about. And I had a legitimate reason to be, because there were people in this area who were Arabs, or who could pass for Arabs. Indians, not Native Americans, but Indians from India. Yeah, they were the ones I were worried about. Because even Hispanic people who look somewhat Arab. Even I, when I'm tanned, and the beard, I could fool somebody for that. But here's the thing. Yeah, we came together in this tragedy. We also realized we had a very ugly side too. There were Muslims who had nothing to do with the attack, who all they were guilty of is just being Muslim. They got attacked, they got hurt, and, in some cases they were, really, 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 sad to say it, really victimized and all. I remember, and what bothers me the most to this day is that Bush had the wonderful opportunity to really unify this nation, and instead came the Patriot Act, and eventually it became, well, if you don't agree with the president, then you're a traitor. Remember those days? When if you disagreed with the president, how dare you disagree with the president? Shame on you. Here's the thing, and I want you to understand this, because in all honesty, it's scary to think what will happen eventually when we get attacked again. And we will get attacked again. It could happen tomorrow. It could happen a month from now, a year from now, 10 years from now, 100 years from now. Somewhere along the way, we're going to get attacked again. It may be by ISIS or ISIL or whatever you want to call them. It may be by remnants of Al-Qaeda. It may be from another terrorist group. It may be a domestic terrorist group. It may be a terrorist group that has nothing to do with Islam. We could get attacked again. That's the price of living in a free country. You run the risk of getting attacked. It is what it is. That's freedom, ladies and gentlemen. Freedom ain't free. Freedom means you run the risk sometimes of getting hurt. Freedom means that occasionally you get something bad happening to you. Freedom means that from time to time we have to pay the price, whether it's our soldiers or, in the case of 9/11, our civilians. We're the greatest country in the world still, I believe. We got a hell of a lot of flaws. But I've always believed that deep down, the American people have something that I think every other nation wishes they had combined. And that's because we have so many people coming in from all over the world, from generation after generation. It's forged us into something that other nations really don't have. Now, we're in a very tough situation right now. We're divisive. Our economy ain't that great. Sorry, Obama. I know what you said last night on your speech. You said the economy was doing better. It's not really. Maybe for the Wall Street folks and the rich, but not for the folks like us who are on the bottom. Now, let me talk for a moment about what will happen if we get attacked again. First off, I don't think we're ever going to get attacked by a nuclear, chemical, or biological weapon. Why? Because A, it's difficult to bring into the country. B, it's difficult to go undetected in the country. And C, if they were to use it, the United States would probably go all berserk and decide to make glass parking lots in wherever these people came from, i.e., nuke them straight to hell and shoot them in the dark. Terrorism isn't necessarily about killing people. Terrorism is about scaring people into the fear that they might be next. It's not about killing people as much as as having people constantly watching their back. When's the next attack going to happen? Remember the days after 9/11? Where there were always scares. We had the anthrax problem. That was legit. And it's still, you don't ever look at white powder in an envelope the same way again. But my biggest fear is a terrorist attack is going to be something relatively low-tech, but very well coordinated. Think about this. I have said this many times over the years, ever since 9/11. The perfect time for a terrorist to attack is Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, or basically the night of Thanksgiving in a lot of places, where you have all these stores that are packed with Christmas shoppers wanting to get that great deal. Security's overwhelmed. It's a perfect time for belt bombers, suicide bombers to come along and go, you know what? And if it's coordinated and hits and strikes in the same period, roughly the same period of time, in different locations, and either in a city, or a state, or a region, or all over the country, that will scare the hell out of people. Instead of attacking Washington, D.C., you could attack other federal buildings. Attack post offices, coordinate it. There are many ways you can do that. And, small attacks, well coordinated, that kills some people, but has people worried about where the next one's coming from. You see, the terrorists, and they're not one group. They're it's basically, we're lumping a lot of terrorist groups in together. And a lot of these groups don't have the capability, or in some cases the will, to attack the United States. And the reason I say the will is, they saw what happened in Al-Qaeda. Have we done as good of a job of going after Al-Qaeda as we probably should have? That's debatable. But we tore up Al-Qaeda. Don't think for 1 second that didn't go unnoticed, because these terrorist groups, yeah, they're willing to, they've got members who are willing to martyr themselves, but, you know, there's an old saying. The grunts may be willing to kill themselves, but the generals would like having a nice long life. And that's what we're going after. That's what really scares the terrorist, is that we're going after the leadership. And Obama's been very smart about that. We could have attacks on little bits and pieces of Al-Qaeda's machinery here and there. But you got to remember, Al-Qaeda, if you cut the head off enough times, they're going to wither away, and they have. They're not nearly as strong as they used to be. In some cases, they've fragmented, like with ISIS. They used to be Al-Qaeda in Iraq. Now they're the Islamic State because they turned crazy. Now here's the important thing. Not everybody in that region likes ISIS. There are a lot of people in that region who don't like ISIS one bit. And the key is making sure we don't honk them off to where we push them to go, you know, maybe ISIS isn't that bad after all. There are a lot of people who just want to go in there and whoop some ass. We don't care who they are. We just want to kick some ass, make ourselves feel good. Obama, and I'm not one of these people that kisses his ass and praises everything he does. And I'm not one of these people who condemns everything he does. He's got plenty of faults. But on this matter, he's playing it pretty damn good. Is he playing perfectly? No. I think he should have been doing something a long time ago. But that's foreign relations. I mean, there's a lot of stuff we don't know about that's happening that we really don't have any clue about. And I want you to understand something. This war ain't going to end anytime soon. We're probably going to fight this war for decades to come, on and off. Because terrorists think that they can eventually win in the end through attrition. That eventually leadership in the United States, whether they be Democrat or Republican, get sick and tired of the war. Sick and tired of the fight. Now you're saying to yourself, well, isn't Obama guilty of that? Well, you have to remember, we all were tired of the war. There's a reason why John McCain lost. People were sick and tired of Iraq and Afghanistan. They wanted it to end. They felt like we weren't really doing anything over there except getting our young men and women killed. And so that's why we have what we have now. We have Al-Qaeda pretty much done. But ISIS came out of their place in Syria and Iraq. They're fighting with the opposition forces that are fighting against Assad. They've taken advantage of a situation. And let's face it, Assad knows that, hey, if ISIS can be defeated by the United States and these opposition forces are basically running themselves up against the ISIS, hey, I could come right from behind, take out both ISIS and the opposition, and regain stability and wait out international opinion to go, hey, you know, Assad's got friends in high places, Putin, the Chinese government. Now, Obama in a couple of weeks is supposed to go before the United Nations, the Security Council. And they're supposed to pass a resolution, I'm sure. The question is, will Russia and China block it? And I can tell you, behind the scenes, they're trying all they can to get Russia and China, at least reluctantly, to get on board. But you have to understand something. Vladimir Putin's a bit of a grandstander. If he can poke his eye in Obama's face poke his finger at Obama's eye, I should say. I got that completely screwed up. My apologies. But if he can do that, guess what's going to happen? You're going to have Al-Qaeda. You're going to have Al-Qaeda or Al-Qaeda's successors proclaim it as a partial victory. They'll rally around that because, hey, they got a buddy in Russia. Even though Russia's really no friend of theirs, because look what they're doing in Chechnya. The only reason Russia or China would veto is out of spite. Hey, you don't want to. We're not going to let you throw your weight around in a small country. Even though, yeah, he's been doing some pretty horrific things, but hey, you can't do that. You got to respect their sovereignty. Let the people decide this stuff, which of course they really don't because they like Assad. But the thing is, we're going to be in this area for a long time to come. You know it, and I know it. It sucks, but there it is. I really truly wish it wasn't like this. But the world is as we find it, not as we want it to be. And I really wish the world was like we wish it were to be. Make a whole lot of things more simpler. That's my take on this anniversary of 9/11. My name's John Thomas Hill. Thank you for listening. Good night, good luck, and may the good news be yours.